brain implant that could be inserted through and a Chinese startup says that it has developed a brain implant that could be inserted through a vein without the open skull surgery required by systems like Elon Musk's Neuralink. Now, the company says that the procedure could take as little as 10 minutes. Shanghai-based STEMED Technology is developing a vein-based brain-computer interface. It is designed to reach the brain through the blood vessels. The device would enter through a vein in the neck and travel through the vascular system before reaching the brain. The company says an experienced surgeon could position the device in around 10 minutes, much faster than the surgery used to implant Neuralink's device. But there is an important catch here. STEMED's vein-based approach has so far only been tested on sheep, and the company has not yet started human trials. That means the 10-minute figure is a target. It's not a human surgery result that has been proven. The basic idea is also not entirely new. US-based Synchron has already tested its Stentrode brain-computer interface in humans. With the device designed to read brain signals through a blood vessel, STEMED says that its own design would go a step further, with part of the device exiting the vessel and anchoring outside it. STEMED has raised more than 1.1 billion yuan with investments from Chinese tech giants including Tencent and Alibaba. The company is part of China's push to build a homegrown brain-computer interface industry and compete with companies such as Neuralink.
Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start off by giving all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone Rule Well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. Alright. Okay, and this video will be entitled Moab. Alright. Competing in, fast BCI. Okay, C-hip, implant technology. Okay, and in this lesson we're just going into the pride of Moab, alongside as this man who is trying to produce and who's going to accomplish this technology in these times. Okay, Esau Edom. Moab has its mindset set on its time to rule. Okay, the scriptures go into the pride of Moab, which I'll go into. But this company, STEMED, okay, which is in China, all right, who are the in the scriptures, the Chinese in the scriptures is identified as Moab. Okay, so STEMED says its brain C-hip could take 10 minutes, okay, of implant. Well, as you see the guy say, they're testing it on animals, but soon to test on humans, which is all a part of this Revelation 13 and 16. Okay, but they want to accomplish to exalt themselves alongside with Esau Edom, and it's all going to naught, because once this man accomplished this and set this on the earth, the time of temptation, okay, his kingdom is going down, and that's what along with all these heathen, okay, there's no rule, okay, after this man's gone. All right, so it says Shanghai based brain computer interface BCI, okay, startup STEMED Technology has announced a minimally invasive approach to neural implants, claiming its system can be developed in just 10 minutes. So fast, corrects in implantation. All right, can be deployed in just 10 minutes, bypassing traditional open skull surgery and heavy robotic assistance required by competitors like Neuralink, which that's Elon Musk, okay, that devil, okay, that false savior. Okay, STEMED's technique threads a device through a neck, okay, a neck vein, and maneuvers it via the vascular system, position itself just outside the blood vessel, wall near the brain. But it's the same thing. A needle thread something to prick. So they are copying and trying to accomplish what Esau is trying to do. Okay, which Moab, they have their pride, but it's all going down. Okay, they mindset to achieve power. So I just type up here, StairMed latest BCI work, Shaanxi based medical technology firm StairMed reported in July 2026 that its implantable brain computer interface BCI clinical trials have enabled quadriplegic patients to control computer cursors with a command latency under 50 milliseconds. Okay, so with the C-hip, okay, allowing them to successfully return to back-end office and e-commerce work. So is the copy of this man with his lying wonders they are trying to accomplish, because Moab has a mindset of having power, of they gonna be the next ruling power, right? China, the Moabites, all right, which is all again going to know that the pride, pride goeth before fall, okay, all right, so they copying this lying wonders, okay, because they want to rule, okay, have that same mindset that with the C-hip, this man trying to with this gold complex, okay, just this, check out this article here. China races to develop brain computer interfaces that can be inserted in 10 minutes. Right? Okay, Chinese startups and researchers are racing to bring brain computer interfaces BCIs to market that can be implanted in just a few minutes as Beijing pushes to nurture homegrown players in the sector to compete with Elon Musk Neuralink. Okay, so a competition or a race towards this the C-hip, which is this Revelation 2016. But it's really starting from this man. He's gonna bring it. And it's going down. It have no, you're not gonna have anyone who's gonna have that rulership. After who gonna prosper, prevail. According to this word of prophecy. Okay, these heathen are gonna go into slavery. Alright, Moab gonna become that wash pot. Okay, but that's really known. It said the Chinese device which enable patients to control digital technology using their thoughts alone can be inserted via a vein like a stent, unlike conventional BCIs that require patients to undergo brain surgery. So they're trying to do it more efficient, faster. Okay, but as the races towards this, the end is near. On a whole, in this age, with the rulership of the heathen, starting with Esau, Edom, it are no rising up. When prophecy like the third war come to pass, all these nations, okay, gang up together against Babylon. It has no one's gonna rise up. Yahushua gonna subdue them all. Okay, but really known. Okay, StairMed technology, one of the startups involved, it's developing more Slakia, bear with me here, minimally, alright, invasive way of delivering the device. Okay, so again, some precepts. So the pride of Moab, alright, Slakia, bear with me here. Now this is Isaiah chapter 16 and verse 6. Okay, it says, we have heard of the pride of Moab. Okay, the Chinese of today. Alright, he is very proud, even of his haughtiness, and his pride and his wrath, but his lies Slakia, and his pride and his wrath, but his lies shall not be so. Okay, so in today, a prophetic view on Moab. Okay, they have this pride what they carry of of this mindset of rulership, just after the ways, copying the ways of Esau Edom, as China is very advanced in technology. Okay, it have have a saying, they already living in 2050. Okay, but it's going down. You have to understand, when this man go down, they're going down. That pride gonna go before fall. Okay, this desire for control, for total control. Okay, worship of technology, it's all hastening down to the end of this rulership. Okay, starting with Esau Edom and the heathen a whole. All right, going to, this is Jeremiah 48. Again, still on the pride of Moab, and verses 29. Let's get up. It says, "We have heard the pride of Moab. He is exceeding proud. His loftiness, his arrogancy, his pride, and his haughtiness of his heart. Okay, I know his wrath, saith the Lord Yahweh, but it shall not be so. His lies shall not so effect it." Okay, so he have a desire of total control, of rulership, of being next after Babal. Okay, but these heathen are going down. All right, his lies, his desire, of this, not gonna prosper. Esau Edom's going down. You're not gonna have a show, Moab. Okay. So that's it there. All right. Let's get this. It's like here. Bear with me here. All right. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 15 and verse 46. Let's get that. Okay. "And thou Asia, which is China, okay, which is Moab in scriptures, okay, that are partaker of the hope of Babylon." The hope of Babylon. Babylon in scriptures is America. All right, so in that same hope of America prospering, and with this technology, they have that same mindset, to rule in wickedness and just go on, but it going down. All right, "And at the glory of her person, woe be unto thee, thou wretch. Okay, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee." As Babylon is likened unto a whore. Okay, in Revelation, chapter 17, verse 18. For that wicked, you're gonna have a recompense, and you taken up in that, you're gonna be destroyed. All right. Okay, that's just it. Okay, it have no rule after America, Babylon. Esau Edom's kingdom is over. Verse 48, it says, "Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions, therefore saith power." Okay, and that's it. You're following her in our vengeance, in our wickedness. To this technology Esau Edom is bringing on the earth. You following after that, because you have a mindset of that ambition, that goal of continuing in the rulership, but it's all going down according to prophecy. Yahweh Shai, the vision, prophecy, all these things are coming to pass. Okay, and once this come online, all right, our MOTB system talking about, a lot of things, prophecy, and Esau Edom's kingdom, going down, is gonna come in full effect. So you have no show, have no time after, Babylon is gone. All right, and we'll just read this I'll read this, second Ezra chapter 6 verse 16. Alright, it's like here, second Ezra chapter 16 verse 1. It says, woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Okay, woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria, Asia being the Chinese. Alright, it says, gird up yourselves with cloths of sack, and here bewail your children, and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. Okay, all these heathen. Okay, a sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? Okay, a fire is sent among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? Okay, may any man drive away an hungry lion in the wood? Or may any one quench the fire in stubble? And it hath begun to burn. No, nobody can quench it. That fire is consuming. Okay, and this is the coming destruction of Babylon. Okay, America with that thermonuclear fire of those missiles, those ICBMs. Okay, and Asia, not which is China. These Chinese, they're not gonna have the part. They're gonna go down the rulership, and be set into slavery. All right. It says, may one turn again the archer that is shot of a strong archer. The mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? Okay, so this desire of Moab, okay, is going to know. Okay, as the end come closer of Esau Edom, he's going down. Yahweh Shai is coming back, okay, to put down all rule, all authority. Okay, which I'll read. But just going down in this, jumping down to verse 68. Okay, this is the desire, the MOTB, it will relative of Esau Edom and Moab, just copying. Verse 68 in 2nd Ezra chapter 16. It says, for behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. So we know this is the great wrath of the devil, Esau Edom. As you see Moab also trying to fit in that having a competition, okay, with Esau. All right, and to have in a state of idle, of helplessness, okay, with things offered unto idols, this hour of temptation coming on the earth, okay, with this CHIP being mandated and enforced, okay, you giving alliance, but taking that CHIP and being connected to this technology, which will be, this man's way of worship, okay, of exaltation of himself. So Moab feel like he could, partake in that and all pass and just continue to rule, but and we're all gonna disappoint them. All right, this is this is Job chapter 5 and verse 12. Okay, verse 12, it says, he disappointed the devices of the crafty, okay, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. Okay, the success. And now Moab trying to follow after in Esau Edom's plan, this MOTB. All right, they are going to be disappointed at the coming of Yahweh Shai. Okay, the craftiness with this following after those lying wonders, okay, for health, just like Esau Edom, for safety, all these things, control, technology. It's all gonna be disappointed. Is pride. Okay, so I'll just read this last precept. This is First Corinthians chapter 24. There's here. No, actually, it's chapter 15 and verse 24. Okay, it says, then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to power, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power, and he must reign till he hath put all enemies under his feet. So at this end, we're coming into the end of this age of Esau Edom's rulership. Okay, all enemies, all these heathen, which oppress us, the Israelites, okay, a recompense is coming to all, to Moab. Moab is not gonna have his time to rule, okay, but go down. All right, as I said, be that wash spot. All right, okay, so this is what's to come. All right. So, Lord's willing, this edifying, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakakodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. Wa Abad Babal and Shalom.